Hi everyone, this is Kritika. I am a PhD scholar in MIT Law School, Noida, and also I'm working as a legal secretary in one of the renowned companies in Singapore. My topic is child abuse, terror subsisting in the essence of mankind in it. I have taken this topic considering the lot of cases which are happening in India. As per the latest report given by Ministry of Women and Child Development (MWCD), we have noted that 53.2% are the reported cases where children have faced one or more forms of sexual abuse. So the first myth which comes in our mind is that only female childs are getting affected. That is not so true since 52.94% were the boys and 47.06% were the girls. Another myth which comes in our mind that the abusers they are not known to the child. Since this report says that 50% of the abusers are persons known to the child or in a position of trust and responsibility. These are the cases which are reported, but there are a lot of cases which are not even reported. If we'll talk about sexual abuse, in India we don't talk about the word sex so openly. So like if parents they do not talk about such things with their child, so child is not comfortable talking about such things with their parents, so they won't talk to anyone. If they are not talking to anyone, nobody can report such cases, right? Now, we'll see that the total number of sexual offenses which are reported in 2018 are below. So, the rape cases which are reported are 21695. Cases which are reported under POCSO Act 2012 are 39827, that is Protection of Children Against Sexual Offences Act. This act came in 2012. This act is basically to protect the interest of the child. Another type is the cases which are reported under Immoral Traffic Prevention Act 1956, that is 2322. Now, this is the figure which says that children sexually abused every year are 109, and this report is given by National Crime Bureau record. Now, this is a percentage. From the figure, you can see only 5% are the strangers to the child, and 95% offenders are the known to the victim. So, this percentage covers grandfather, father, brother, family members, relatives, neighbors, employers, co workers. It can be anyone, right? So, these are the myths. The first myth, which we have already talked about it, that is child sexual abuse happens only with girls. Definitely, from the report, we can see that the percentage of boys who are getting affected are more than the percentage of girls who are affected. Second myth is that it does not happen in middle class of families. That is not so true since the child does not talk about such act to anyone, especially in the middle class. Like the parents, they are not so open with their child, and there is something which is there in in middle of the child and the parents, so they are not talking about such terms, and when the child is getting affected they don't know whom to talk about it, since this act is not the one time act, this is a recurring act, and the offenders, the abusers, they groom the child, and this act is happening again and again. Another myth is that children, if abused, will tell parents immediately. Definitely, it's not so true because child doesn't know about it, and they are not sure what is happening with them. So they don't know what to tell to their parents, how to tell to their parents. So they don't know how to act. They are so emotionally abused, so physically abused. Another myth is that the offenders are usually strangers. Yes, the stranger is the category. They elude the child, they groom the child, they create that trust, and then this act happens, and it's not a one time act, it happens again and again. But no, in fact, the close ones are also the part of it. They do such acts with the child, and in that case, the child is more scared since they know that person, they can trust that person, and then this act happens. That is the problem. Another myth is that well educated and normal people don't molest children. Definitely, I don't agree to this. If we'll talk about the middle class and the rich class, they are the educated ones, right? We can't tell them that they are illiterate. So, this act happens in both the classes. So, you can't define the education in doing such act. Another myth is that child sexual abuse does not occur at home. That is not so true, since the close ones usually visits your home and they create that trust with your child, and then this act happens. It can happen in their home, it can happen in your home, you don't know about it. So now these are the forms of child abuses. One is physical abuse, second is sexual abuse, third is emotional abuse, fourth is neglect. So what is physical abuse? Physical abuse is that when child has been hurt or is having some injuries. Definitely it's not an accident, since you can see visible marks or injuries. Physical abuse happens by hitting, choking, throwing, burning, poisoning. It can be anything. Now the sexual abuse. So World Health Organization defines sexual abuse when the child is involved in some sexual activity, and they are not in a position or they are not so developmentally strong to give the consent. And uh, even though if they'll give the consent, that won't be considered. That is the point which violates the law and the social taboos. So child sexual abuse are like fondling, inviting a child to be touched sexually, or intercourse, or like involving a child in prostitution or some pornography. So child sexual abuse happens when a child, adult, or teenager uses their power or authority to involve another child in sexual activity. Now the next one is emotional abuse. Basically, in emotional abuse, child has been treated negatively, which gives the social impact, emotional impact, or intellectual development. Like they have been rejecting, or somebody is bullying them, criticizing them, isolating them. So all these are the part of emotional abuse. And the majority and the major one is domestic and family violence, that emotionally harms the child, since they are at the greater risk of not having their basic needs met, including their protection and care needs. The last one is neglect. Neglect happens when the child's basic needs are not met, and that affects their health and their development. Like food is not given them properly, proper house, shelter, health, their clothes are not given, the personal hygiene is not given, nobody is there to supervise them. Legal perspectives for child protection. So this legal perspective is specifically focused that people should know the policies and laws which protects the children from being abused within and externally from the family, since a lot of laws are there, right? But if awareness are not there, then how can you save the children, or how can you save the person who are becoming the offender? So there has to be the awareness among everyone, that what will be the consequence if you do this, how the child will be treated, and how they are being abused. So basically this is to detect the real problems and along with the risk associated, so that they can prevent this action. Next one is constitutional interferences. So basically, the protection and welfare of the children in India are safeguarded by the Indian Constitution, and which actually contains the numerous provisions so that they can prevent the child abuse. Indian Constitution has been amended several times and has been shaped up in a way so that basically they can prepare different policies, special laws, and safeguard measures for the children rights. And in fact, the articles and the sections in IPC, they have prepared, they have molded in such a way so that they can basically save and protect their children within any territory of the country. So all these articles of IPC, they are empowered for the purpose to ensure that the safety, protection, and security and well-being of our children has been properly taken care of. Indian Penal Code 1860, which was further updated in 1994, a lot of sections were included to protect the children. So some were feticide, infanticide, which were made punishable by the court. Another one is abatement of suicide under section 305. This is to protect the minors from committing suicide due to any form of child abuses and neglect. Another act which comes into the picture is Regulation and Prevention of Misuse Act 1994. This actually prevents any sort of crime from the parents or the outside from the family against the children, basically to leave them alone. And also, this protects the children from being kidnapped or abducted. And another one which covers the minor girls by force or inducement to seduce having illicit intercourse. In India, basically, the child trafficking is another major issue, and which needs a distinct attention from the Supreme Court. And this act is also emphasizing to prevent any arrangement or intention to sell the girl child for prostitution. This act also basically protects the girl children from being bought for prostitution. This act also covers the safety of a girl children from being raped, as well as elderly women who is a victim under the same section. Next act is the Juvenile Justice Care and Protection of Children Act 2000. Uh, the major purpose of this act is to ensure that the proper facilities are there so that they can rehabilitate the children, and this ensures that extensive care provisions are there, and the treatments, the protections for the children are included in that. As per this act, the children basically they are meant to be taken care of, protected, and treated in a way that they are not abused in any way. And if there is a conflict situation associated with care and developmental needs, then this act will cover that. The objective of this act is to enable on the pride foundation of the assurance that all the child friendly approaches are there. Next act is Child Labor Prohibition and Regulation Act 1986. Child labor is basically a very dreadful phenomena in India that not only prevents children having a proper education but that ruins their natural growth completely. This was a very shameful act for any constitution that this cases was still there and increasing day by day. So Supreme Court in India has enabled Child Labor Prohibition and Regulation Act, and this made the provision that no child will be employed under the age of 14 years, and that the proper education will be given to a child. Next act is the Immoral Traffic Prevention Act 1956. Women trafficking and child trafficking, they were the dreadful issues in India. The government of India actually, after independence, highlighted this issue, and in 1956, Indian Constitution amended, and this act came into picture. This act is basically dealing with the offenses related to the sexual exploitation with the children, especially for the purpose of commercial benefits by the individuals. And this act ensured that the proper punishment and the penalties will be imposed on such offenders who are actually involved any sort of child trafficking under this act. Another act which came into picture is the Commission for the Protection of Child Rights Act 2005. This act was made implemented so that they can protect the interest of the child, and the proper rights, they made ensure that proper rights are given to the children. Another act is the Prohibition of Child Marriage Act 2006. This act was actually implemented so that those practices which are happening in India can be stopped, and the minimum age was actually mentioned that for the girl it's 18 years and for the boys it's 21 years of the age of the marriage, and this child marriage practice was made as the voidable at the option of contracting party. The next important act is the Protection of Children Sex Against Sexual Offences Act 2012. This was the most important act, and this was also amended in 2019, and the harsher punishments were included. So this act is to protect the children from the offences such as sexual assault, sexual harassment, and pornography. So the first few sections talks about the penetrative sexual assault, and if such act is done, then the punishment will be the imprisonment between 7 years to life and a fine. But now the bill have actually increased the punishment from 7 to 10 years, and if the person is actually committing this crime under the age of 16 years, then the punishment will be increased to 20 years to the life with a fine. Aggravated penetrative sexual assault, if such act is done by any police officer, member of armed forces, or a public servant, then uh, the punishment will be between 10 years to life and a fine. But actually the bill has actually increased it to 20 years maximum to the death penalty. Now the next one is pornographic purpose, and this says that if the person is guilty of using a child for pornographic purpose, basically uses for the media for the sexual gratification, so then the offender will be penalized, and the punishment will be given to the offender. So this act says that what were the earlier punishments and what were the 2019 punishments. So when use of child for pornographic purposes, maximum was 5 years, but now it's minimum. Use of child for pornographic purposes resulting in penetrative sexual assault, minimum was 10 years. Now minimum is 10 years, but in case of child below 16 years, then the minimum will be 20 years. The maximum earlier was life imprisonment, now also it's same. Use of child for pornographic purposes resulting in aggravated penetrative sexual assault, it's life imprisonment last time. Now it's 20 years, and maximum is life imprisonment or death. Use of child for pornographic purposes resulting in sexual assault, last time it was 6 years minimum and 8 years maximum, but now it's 3 years minimum and 5 years maximum. Use of child for pornographic purposes result in aggravated sexual assault, last time it's 8 years minimum and 10 years maximum, now it's 5 years minimum, 7 years maximum. Storage of pornographic material, this act actually penalizes storage of pornographic material for any commercial purpose, and the punishment will be 3 years of fine. And this bill has amended to 5 years, 3 to 5 years of fine both. Let's talk about some case laws. The first case law was the Kathua rape case in 2018, where it was involved the abduction, gang rape, and murder of an 8-year-old girl, Asifa Bano, in January 2018 in Rasana village near Kathua in Jammu and Kashmir, India. The result was that it resulted in Criminal Law Amendment Ordinance 2018. The main objective was to give harsher punishment to the perpetrators of rape, especially in the cases of the rape of minor girls below 16 years and 12 years. Minimum punishment of rape was increased from 7 to 10 years, and gang rape of a girl below 16 years is imprisonment for rest of the life. Rape of a girl below 12 years of age has minimum 20 years punishment and up to death penalty. Provision for speedy investigation was also included. Investigation will be done in 2 months, trial will be done in 2 months, disposal of appeal will be 6 months. No anticipatory bail will be given in such cases, and punishment in IPC and POSCO Act, if it's there, then the higher punishment will be given. Another case is Sakshi versus Union of India and others. So this case actually made some procedural changes, that the inquiry or trial offences under 354 and 377 will be modified a little bit. Holding of trial of child sex abuse or rape, and screen or some arrangements will be made where the victim or witness is there, so that they cannot see the body or face of the accused. The questions which will be put in the cross examination on behalf of the accused, insofar they relate to the directly to the incident, should be in the writing to the presiding officer of the court, so that they can actually ask the victim or witness in the language which is clear to them. The victim of child abuse or rape, while giving the testimony, should be allowed sufficient time and breaks when required. So these actually made to safeguard the interest of the victim, so that they won't get scared, and the proper options are given to them. Since they are child, they cannot talk in a language as a layman can talk, So this procedural changes were brought in this case. In other cases, Vijay Kumar versus State of Tripura, the facts were that there was a accused Fuchka Wala who actually took the victim to a lonely place by alluring them by giving fuchka and touched the different parts of her body with the sexual intent. But child actually somehow escaped from the custody. So, in this case, the bail was requested under section 439, but it was rejected by the court. So now my final conclusion is that since there are a lot of laws which are there to prevent the victim, to prevent the happening of such act, but the enforcement has to be there, the awareness has to be there, since a lot of provisions are made to safeguard the interest of the child victim, but we should opt for the thing so that this act is not happening. The prevention has to be there, the awareness has to be there. So the part of the NGO, the role of the NGO comes into picture, or the related organization, so that they can aware the people, they can aware that this is wrong, and they can talk about such abuse, since the children, they are the innocent one, they don't know what is the abuse, why it's happening to them. So we should aware the people basically. So these are some suggestions that the NGO and the law enforcement authorities and related governing bodies should liaise with each other in terms of dealing with cases where child has been sexually exploited, and it would crack down that in a comprehensive manner they can find out some way out. The measures to be taken to protect the victim, and the proper compensation to be given to the victim if such act is happening, proper ways to be followed, that they can't see the accused and the report has made or not, the time frame had to be there. Thank you, wish you very happy new year 2021.